All right. I think we're live, Joe.
Okay. Well, good afternoon or good morning for the folks on the other time zone there, but good morning or good afternoon for everybody else. We're going to go ahead and start with our roll call. And just in case you weren't aware, this is being broadcast on YouTube at this point live. So we thought it would be helpful to do the roll call by district. And if you could say your name and your school that you teach, that would be fantastic. So let's go ahead and start with District 1.
Beth Stribling, and I teach at Murray Middle and Murray High.
Thank you, Beth. District 2. Don't see anyone from District 2. Okay, District 3.
Joel Watson, Muhlenberg South Middle School and Muhlenberg County High School.
Thank you, Joel. District 4.
Nathan Willoughby, Greene County Middle and High School.
Thank you, Nathan. District 5.
Brad Rogers. I'm Amanda Buckholz's proxy for today. I'm at Oldham County High School.
I'm sorry to interrupt. John, Alan just texted me and he's wondering about the link. What day did you send that?
Just yesterday, wasn't it? Sorry it's taking so long. I'm getting a little feedback here.
He says he just found the link. He's coming on.
Okay.
And we do see Alan jumping in. That's great. So that'll help for our District 2 there. District 6.
Jana Bromley, Turkey Foot Middle School.
Thank you, Jana. District 7.
Michael Collins, Woodford County High School.
Thank you, Michael. District 8.
Rob Rawlings, Bath County High School.
Thank you, Rob. District 9.
Scott Versaliga, Pikeville Independent Schools.
Thank you, Scott. District 10.
Scott Sexton, Pulaski County High School and Northern Middle School.
Thank you, Scott. District 11.
David Jaggi, Madison Central High School.
Thank you, David. And District 12.
Mark Monroe, Butler Traditional High School.
Thank you, Mark. So as many of you are aware, of course, the main purpose of this meeting, of course, is to respond to an action item from the Marching Band Committee. So I apologize for not having a formal agenda, but of course that is our action item for discussion for today. We'll leave some time at the end, obviously, for additional discussion. But I wanted to check and just to make sure, since last time we met, if we have any reports from any of our other subgroups of this. So I'll start with David Centers. Do you have anything, David, for, of course, it's band chair-elect David Centers?
No, nothing to report.
Okay. George Bolden?
Nothing to report.
And John Strobe?
For the band council information and the sake of band council, who also oversees, of course, all state band activities, we've just gotten the preliminary study, as you've probably read, from the aerosol study from University of Colorado and University of Maryland. And it's sketchy information. There's a lot more to see, but it gives some guidelines about, especially about singing and playing of wind instruments indoors and some mitigating kinds of factors. And I know if you've looked at that, there are some concerns. Well, even talking in class, of course, is not considered to be great. And they suggest that if a student needs to talk or ask a question, they should put a mask on when they do that. And the teacher who talks a lot should put a mask on. So we're all concerned about indoor music instruction, and that has come along. And I think, of course, that kind of thing could very well impact what could happen with all state bands, all state choirs, all state orchestras too, to some extent. The number of people in the room, the length of rehearsals is a hanging point. So Joe and I will be talking about that. David and I and Joe and George and Terry and David Graham also, and choral chair, orchestra chair, children's choir, junior high choir, we'll be talking about this. Melissa and I had already speculated to some extent that due to the spacing situation, that the number of students who could possibly be in a group and rehearse together in the same room would probably not be as many as currently. We just don't have a gymnasium for every single ensemble to practice in at a great distance. So that's going to be one of our next things to worry about, of course, and concern ourselves with and make some deliberations on. And so you can be thinking about that, and nothing will happen, I'm sure, without Joe calling together some sort of meeting like this to get lots of input. And of course, there may be surveys as well. That's all I have, Joe.
Thank you, John. For my report, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page of what's going on here. We have, of course, from this committee and through the county executive, we have sent out guidance to schools for music classrooms at this point. Of course, we did say pending the results of the aerosol study, so we will probably be looking to, edit and modify those things as we go. So I want to thank all the folks that worked on that, because obviously that's going to be crucial as this school systems make their decisions in the next weeks here ahead for the restart of school. Also, wanted to thank John Johnson. He was a big leader on this and putting together a survey of basically trying to to gather information on how your districts are planning to open schools, so we can pair folks together and come up with strategies together on, based on whatever scenario your school is looking at to reopen, how to best serve the music education of our students. So we've been compiling that data as well. I'm sure we'll be updating that, as we get closer into the, once I know districts are making decisions as we go, and it seems very fluid. It seems like sometimes they're even changing after they've made decisions. So, but we're hoping that we'll be able to pair young educators, old educators, similar school system sizes, and similar circumstances together within our membership to at least brainstorm and come up with the ideas how to best meet the needs of the students given those circumstances. So huge thanks to John for that. And then of course, the other the big action item for that, other than for me, of course, is that I want to thank the marching band committee and Tim Allen as the chair. They have been working tirelessly for marching band guidelines and other things related to the marching band activity. So I wanted to thank them for all of their work on that. And that concludes my report. So then I wanted to turn it over. It looks like, is Tim Allen, are you on the call now, Tim?
I'm on the call. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So now I want to turn it over to Tim Allen for his report.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have the video is not working. I've had all kinds of technical problems this morning. No internet. I'm in a different building today, and it's caused some problems. But if you can hear me, I guess that's the most important thing. So the Marching Band Committee met in special session yesterday to vote on whether the Marching Band Committee should continue or proceed with planning for the 2020 state championships, the SMBC. A vote was taken, and if you've read John's email, I'll just read straight from it. A vote was taken, resulting in 4 in favor of proceeding with planning and 8 opposed to proceeding with planning. So this is brought forward to the council today. I would like to point out that in addition to this, it was stated, and I would like for everybody to understand that that does not mean the work of the MBC is over with. If this were to pan out and you all support what the Marching Band Committee has brought to you, that there is more work to do, and I'm in planning to have an ad hoc committee that addresses concerns related to any local or regular season contests that may still happen, that we have not closed the door on what bands can do. We have not, as KMEA or as the SMBC or as the NBC. Bands may still choose, if they can, to have contests or festivals or events that have marching band shows involved. So we're going to have an ad hoc committee that will address those and maybe help give some guidelines as to how that might happen in the coming days. But in any case, the crux of the meeting, and that's why we're here today, I'm sure, is to pass this word along about the vote that was taken yesterday. So again, the vote was 8 opposed to proceeding and 4 in favor of proceeding with planning for the 2020 State Marching Band Championships. That concludes my report, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Tim. So as you saw from John Strobey's email out to the members, of course, this is coming from one of our committees. This does not need a motion on the floor or a second. It is up for discussion. But one of the items I asked John to help us with here is just so in case you weren't aware, to know how your district voted for this. John has those numbers, and I would like just to start off before we do the discussion to go through those for us now.
Sure. Okay, here's how it came down yesterday. 1, no, that is to say, do not go forward. 2, no. 3, no. 4, no. 5, yes. 6, yes. 7, no. 8, yes. 9, no. 10, yes. 11, no. 12, no.
Thank you, John. So I will now open up the floor for any discussion for this motion from the Marching Band Committee.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Kip.
All right. Just got a couple of questions for Dr. Strobey and George. George, I assume all the judges are already hired for the final event. Is that a pretty good assumption?
Yes.
Okay. And facilities have obviously been booked, correct, Dr. Strobey?
That's correct.
Okay. My question is, and I'm at band camp right now, so I'm a diehard. Until my administration shuts me down, I'm going for it, and we're being very, very smart about everything. Kids are in mass constantly unless they're blowing through a horn. My question is, what is the latest date in terms of judges? First, George, I'm assuming we pull the plug. We're going to owe them something at some point. Is that correct?
No.
No.
Contracts have not been issued. They have accepted the opportunity to judge, but we have not sent back contracts. We've done it that way for years.
Okay.
So we're not going to lose any money.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And as far as the facilities, Dr. Strobey, when is the last possible moment where we wouldn't lose any money, where you would have to cancel out for Commonwealth Stadium or anything else?
There's been no upfront money for any of the facilities. It's all been agreements with the quarterfinals and semifinal sites. It's a paper contract. We have already lost a semifinal site. There's possible replacement for that, but there's already been that. But I haven't actually talked to UK since in the spring, at which time the assistant athletic director said, I just want to let you know that no matter what we agree on, if this virus thing takes hold and changes things, then that changes things. And I said, of course, I understand completely, but no money has changed hands, and we have not to the point that we spend money that we can't recoup. This is the time, since you're speaking of it, this is the time when we absolutely need to order plaques, the very expensive plaques that we give to people who make the finals, 6 per class this year. And we have not done that. I've been holding off.
Understood. My fear, honestly, is we're talking, and that's why I wanted to know those things. We're talking about an event that happens at the end of October. And here we are in mid-July, and there are a lot of people in the middle of camps and everything else. And I did speak with some people that voted yesterday, that happened to be from districts that voted, hey, let's keep trying for it and so forth. One director even said, man, my kids are absolutely crushed. And I'm afraid that I'm going to have half of them not even show up tomorrow because KMEA is their end game. And full disclosure, I had not made a decision on, as far as my band goes, whether I was planning on going for KMEA or possibly Contest of Champions if either event happens. So I'm more concerned that, we're pulling the plug a little bit early, and I didn't know what the latest, excuse me, I didn't know what the latest date that where we wouldn't lose money would be, in terms of all that, because here we are right in the middle of people's camps that are people that are still going, and I intend to show my kids off no matter what, as long as my administration allows me to, whether it be a local contest or whatever else is happening, or if somebody decides to continue on and things get better. But we haven't even begun to start school back, and we don't know what a lot of that stuff's going to look like, and we don't know what's going to happen. Chances are it could get really bad, or it could get better. We just don't know. I personally feel like we're pulling the plug a little early, and that's my 2 cents. You guys can vote how you want to vote, but I vote that we should not postpone doing something this drastic, just because it's an end game kind of thing, and that's what people tend to look forward to. We may not have it, I understand that, but it does squash a lot of people's enthusiasm for those that keep going. Last thing I will say, and I saw that Grant brought it up at the meeting, and I talked with Dr. Strobe yesterday about this, and he knows about what I'm about to say, but the people that did vote and put in, how many people have already decided that they didn't want to proceed with competitive marching band in the first place? And that information, I don't believe, was really disclosed. It was just, here's my numbers, 8-6, this and that. I watched the entire meeting yesterday and followed everything, so I'm very informed on all that. But I was curious about how that kind of worked out, because if somebody's not planning on competing, well, what does it matter? Those are my 2 cents to the committee. I'm past band chair. I don't really have much more of a say, but I would recommend holding off just a little bit until school starts before we just pull the plug entirely. That's my opinion. I will shut up now.
Not really your major point, Kip, but one thing I'll say that I want to touch on, a minor thing you said about it not being disclosed. We don't know. We don't have a poll. We don't have a checklist. We don't know who has already decided whether they are going ahead or whether they've been holding out and waiting. So I don't think you meant it this way, but it wasn't a matter of us disclosing it. It was a matter of us simply not knowing that. We did know which ones were in the SNBC the last couple of years and which ones were not. And even if you took out the people who have not been in the last 2 years, just as a ballpark of kind of who your players are, we found that the percentages didn't change, but just like 1% or something. It was still about the same, because some of those people, well, about a third of those people said yes, and about 2/3 of those people said no. So that didn't particularly change it. Just to clarify, because people always, they wonder if somebody's trying to push some kind of agenda with underhanded whatever, and
I don't believe any of it was underhanded at all.
No. You weren't saying that.
No, I was not saying that. I know I looked at the numbers, and it pretty much was a 2/3 majority. My biggest concern is that it seems like I said, we're in mid-July and nobody's started school yet, and we don't know what's going to happen. And I just wanted to know how late we could push it before we pulled the plug. ISMA pulled the plug yesterday. We're going along with the trend, but I'm concerned that we are jumping the gun just a little bit when we've got judges hired, we have facilities in general. We could go ahead, we could not go ahead, but when would that point be? So
Kip,
just food for thought.
Kip, if I could speak to the opposing viewpoint, yeah, my district was 100% no, but there were a lot of people in my district who felt like KMEA kept kicking the can down the road and that they should have made the decision long ago, because they were waiting to invest money in their band camps. They were waiting to invest money in having their show written and having their music written and that kind of thing. And so they were concerned about going bankrupt because they were going to put all this money into something that eventually wasn't going to happen. So there is another side to your viewpoint, and I totally understand your viewpoint. Obviously, you've already invested your money and done that kind of thing, but there's a lot of people who haven't and who are waiting to see. So that's just the other side.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Kip.
Sorry, I have two computers going right now and I forgot which mute. I totally get you, Beth, and it's one of those risks that you got to take on an individual basis, you know, based on what you think is you want to do for your kids. But I still stand by. I feel like we're rushing.
I'm gonna jump in here. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I don't, you know, it's not my place. I feel like to, you know, to decide what's in every program's best interest. I think every facility is different. Obviously, we've got a big group, but we're able to operate right now because there's an elementary school right across the street with a big cafeteria and a big gym that's sitting empty. And our campus is pretty empty right now. And we have a big auditorium. And if we didn't have access to those facilities, then a Madison Central decision might look different. There's a couple things that I just kind of want everybody to have in the back of their mind. One, for me, the only realistic performance opportunity in front of an audience that I see in first semester that could even mildly be safe is outdoors. Like I've already got a Christmas, you know, or winter concert plan in my head, and I'm thinking through those things, and I kind of, you know, have a vision of what that looks like. And I wish we were spending a little bit of this time that we've had along the way here, June going into July, thinking about maybe not just canceling state championships or proceeding like it's always looked. We have all had to have the thought that, okay, we're not going to pack in Kroger Field like sardines from the audience standpoint, being in like crazy long lines going to concession stand. Like that ship sailed a while ago. My thought is there something that we could do outdoors that maybe finishes a little bit earlier before flu season would pick up, that is on a calendar provisionally as an opportunity to aim for? I think everybody understands that at any point we could go home. I think we all understand that. I'm in a camp right now, but I can tell you that the 3 days that I've spent with my kids have been the best 3 days in months. And I've gotten to see them, and I've gotten to do my job, and I've gotten to advocate, you know, on their behalf and get to know the new folks in person. I'm sure a lot of us are looking at the reality that maybe we're starting school at home. It's a district by district thing, but I think that there's potentially a wave of that coming. So my in-person music teaching is happening right now, and it's on an empty campus, and I'm taking advantage. I'm living my best life every single day, trying to be as safe as I can, trying to make connections with our students and empower them to be better people and musicians. But it is with the thought that there's no guarantee of seeing them in person in August. There's no guarantee of a fall performance opportunity. We're already looking at the limitations on all states. So like where in this season, you know, and it's not just for me, just about literally October 31st. It's not really about that, but I just would urge all of us to really take this time and consider, you know, what meaningful things can we do to have any kind of a performance opportunity before spring break, and how can we do it? What does it look like? And I know it's I know that's on a school by school or program by program, but I feel like that's a place where KMEA needs to invest time. We could potentially do an outdoor something, but when the budgets come out for next year, and it's a lot slimmer than it is, you know, we're already operating on a budget that was already decided. So there may be some cuts right now, but the real cuts are coming next summer. It's literally, I understand it's not just about a Saturday in October. It's really not. But what can we do to make sure that we are, viable, we are visible, we are engaged, and I think we're going to need maybe some help and opportunities at the KMEA level. So, I'm with Kip that for me and our program, I would prefer to see, some carrot kind of still hanging out there for us. It doesn't have to be what it always has been. That ship for me sailed a ways ago. I think for my students, they still had it in their mind. And so we're kind of literally going through what a lot of the state right now is, which is a grieving process, totally understandable. They've been great about it. And, in a couple hours or a couple days, they're going to rebound. But we've got to kind of think big picture here. And are there things that we can do? Can we be taking this time and set that up? I wish that we had maybe already done an amended version of the state, whatever we want to call it. It's, not championships, but something. And it feels like maybe that should have been on the plate. That's kind of where I'm coming from. Talk amongst yourselves.
Thank you, David. Any other comments or discussion?
I would just like to second what David said in that, especially if it indeed turns out that we're not going to have the state marching band championship, I think it's prevailed upon KMEA that we come up with some kind of at the very least, a list of other performance activities to give directors an idea of what kinds of things they can do that's not large group or marching band oriented. I think that's really important for KMEA to take the leadership and not leave it to individual directors to try and come up with that, especially those that are going through the grieving process from losing marching band.
Yeah, I would say thank you, Beth, and for you and David, I would say that would be for the concert band side of things. Obviously, the subcommittee that's working on that for the band council would certainly be points of that, but I would imagine that would be something that the marching band subcommittee that's going to be coming up with new things, that would be something they could easily add to their action items.
I've got something real brief. I think that all of the comments that have been presented so far on this are heartfelt and everything. We don't have a competitive dog in the fight and haven't had for years. But I can tell you that my students are grieving over the loss of the marching activity here at Oldham County. We keep changing the target here in Oldham County in terms of rehearsal time, access to the facilities. We are not allowed to come inside to rehearse at all. We can come inside to use the toilet as long as we have a spray bottle of alcohol in our hands to spray everything with. It's almost so restrictive that it's to the point where you kind of wonder if it's really worth all of it. And I think that's kind of the frustration that everybody's feeling, because everybody's district is handling this in such a different way. We don't even know yet for sure how we're going to open school. I think the JCPS decision that's going to come out this afternoon and tomorrow at their board meeting is probably going to be that rock from the top of the mountain that just gathers momentum. And we're going to find out that a lot of other people are going to go, well, if the biggest district in the state is going to do it all virtual at the beginning of the year, then maybe that's what we should all do. And the situations are completely different everywhere. I think we might have less than 200 actual confirmed cases of the virus in Oldham County right now. And we've had 7 or 8 people pass from it. So it's not a huge issue here right now, but we're right next to the largest county in the state in terms of population. And most of our people actually work in Louisville if they go into work now, if they're not working virtually. I don't know that you really have a whole lot of choice. I do think that a decision of whatever you're going to do needs to be made, and it needs to be made now, because a lot of folks that are on the side of the fence of trying to budget, trying to worry about the expenditure of money that they've made. Alternate performance opportunities, I don't know what they're going to be. I don't even know. Does anybody on this committee know whether we're going to be allowed to have fans and stands at games? See, KHSAA has been kicking the can down the road too, and a lot of principals are taking their lead from their athletic directors and the guidance that's coming from KHSAA in terms of what they're going to allow the bands to do. They're kind of lumping the bands as an extracurricular activity into the athletic activities. And we had a board meeting here the other night where I actually text messaged my former band parent board member while the meeting was going on. And they were trying to tell kids that wanted to do the virtual academy that they could show up and do the halftime shows. You know, they're not going to be in class. They're not going to be in school at all. What's the purpose of having kids in the virtual academy because they're scared to come to school and then come out there and hang with all these people? It kind of defeats the whole purpose of the thing. So, you just have to kind of watch it because things can get really, really sideways quick. And any decision that you make might end up being affected. My decision to have band camp is probably going to get affected because it's not going to be 5 full days. It's probably going to end up being either mornings or evenings and a reduced schedule. And even then I'm pushing that envelope that KHSAA has put down for their athletes of 6 hours a week of practice. So I'm kind of hoping they don't go there. All right, that's enough for me.
Thank you, Brad. I'm sorry, Joel. I saw George had his hand up. George, did you want to say something in response to that?
Along the same lines as Brad, the alternative forms of performance. I was texted the other day. What if we did solo and ensemble in October? We're talking about changing it up a little bit. Boy, if there's one thing I could tell every band director, if you're not doing solo ensemble, your group's not going to get that much better. And I'm speaking to a class of our group of professionals here, and you all know that. But there are a lot of young band directors, because they didn't do it in their high school, they're not going to do it now. So that is an interesting alternative. I first chuckled because of the source, but then the more I thought about it, I said, you know what? He's right on this one. This is a good idea. So I just throw that out there. There are some alternative things we may or may not be able to do. I'm cut from a different cloth. I only went to high school in Kentucky for 2 years, and it was prior to the advent of the state championship. So my philosophy has nothing to do with competition. My philosophy is that the reason I do anything is because I want to get better. If you're dangling that carrot, so to speak, you might want to look at something different. Maybe there's something deeper there with music that we've gotten away from, because it's so easy to dangle the carrot of competition in front of our kids. And that's just my thought on it. I'm an old guy, but I remember when old guys would talk when I was young, and I would roll my eyes. But as I'm reflecting back, sometimes they said some pretty good things. So if we're using that carrot of state championships as our only means to motivate our kids, perhaps we're not in this for the right reasons. And is it for the kids or is it for us? And I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, George. It looks like Brad wants to respond to that.
Yeah, the first alternative model for rehearsals that I presented to our administration here was a chamber music model for all students for the first semester.
That's what we're looking for at UK. That's probably what I have a group of 60. Cody has a group of 50, and we're going to be doing chamber stuff all semester and maybe even into January.
Well, facilities are an issue here. I mean, it's going to have some cooperation from a lot of people to make it happen. But if they're worried about getting 68, 70 people in my band room 6 feet apart, it ain't going to happen. I don't care what you do. You knock a wall down, it still won't happen. So we're going to have to do something. There's going to have to be some alternative spaces available to us and some resources. You know, I don't know what, of course, we'll probably have to provide them for ourselves. I've been buying gallons of hand sanitizer, for God's sakes. So, but the chamber music model is probably the way to go if you're, locked out of having full band and split classes. The main thing that I'm really concerned about is at the middle school levels in some of these counties, ours included, they're looking at not having band classes at all for a year and making those people go and cover other classes. People are sitting on Chromebooks taking their classes. And I'm not really sure that that's a long term, that's the kiss of death, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see how that goes. All right.
Thank you, Brad and George. Thank you all. Joel, I know you had something you wanted to say as well.
Well, I was just gonna kind of tell from where we were at this point. Brad mentioned the KHSAA 6 hours a week, and that's what's being forced on our band rehearsals right now also. So, our high school, we were kind of at the point of, it's kind of hard to do something competitive if we're being forced to only rehearse 6 hours a week, meaning band camp is basically obsolete at this point. And as far as like the fans in the stands, we were kind of like, we'd love to do, and if competitive marching band is not an issue or is obsolete, then maybe we could put together a football band and play some fun music and that sort of thing. But then we were also, if they don't allow fans in the stands, we're out there marching for ourselves and just playing music for ourselves. So that's kind of where our high school stands at this point on the issue. We're just we don't really know what guidance to take and where to move on based on the restrictions that we're given.
Thank you, Joel. Tim Allen, there was a comment in the chat from Kip, and it says, has the idea of pushing championships to the spring been considered? Would you like to discuss that one?
Well, at our meeting, I guess it was Saturday, this past Saturday, it was kind of put on the back burner. It was on the agenda, and the idea of possibly moving marching band to spring was on the agenda, but it was tabled. It was not really discussed in depth because there were so many other things on the agenda at the time, especially the pressing moment of what's going to happen in the immediate future. So it is on the table, but it has not been discussed yet.
Am I correct? And John, you can help me refer this, but that was a question on a survey, I believe, wasn't it? Or was that something just from my district?
I can't remember. I think it was on somebody else's survey from another state for sure. And I also think that any discussion of it that it was any minor discussion I've heard about had something to do with if Kentucky high school football went to the spring, would bands go to the spring to be with them and, be able to support them just as they do in the fall and that sort of thing. But it never got very far that I recall. Well, of course I don't think it's looking like that's what high school football is going to do anymore, for that matter.
And I think another, I know that Kip referenced this earlier, but just so everybody's aware of that, it is, I believe, and George can help me with this too, but our kind of surrounding area circuits, the Indiana State Marching Association is planning to cancel, as far as my sources have told me. I believe there are similar discussions being held with the Mid-States Band Association. I believe there's a meeting Saturday to discuss. And from what, again, this is all, these are things I've not confirmed, but hearing from multiple sources. And also with some of the decisions going out from Texas and ISMA, that there's consideration on the Bands of America level as well to potentially cancel events for them.
Yeah, Bands of America board is meeting this morning, I suspect right now, to discuss this very issue.
Okay, thank you, George. Any other items for discussion?
Yeah, I just want to clarify for people who are still rolling here, of the folks that I've talked to, the carrot, quote unquote, that is dangling is not a placement, and it's a public performance. And I just want to make sure that we're all, that by and large, the great majority of people that I've talked to have robust concert programs, chamber programs. They're doing all that. Their districts, like our district, for instance, just is not taking the KHSAA things and just cutting and pasting into band. It's just what it is. I mean, it just happens to be. But the carrot is not a placement for most of these folks. It's just a public performance. It's just an opportunity for this group of seniors, especially, to have a public record of their senior year. That we may or may not get to. And, you know, the hope is that in some form that, you know, we get lucky enough to get to that point. And we may not, but I felt like that was worth, and it, you know, I know Kip feels that way. I know several people in the South Central Kentucky that their school systems are all kind of, you know, doing the same thing. The Laurels are rolling. There's Corbin's going right now, and there are several groups in that area that I think that's just kind of the idea. I just want to make sure that you know, I say that at least on their behalf.
I would thank you, David. I think that in just sitting in from the March Band Committee meetings, you know, that I think that that's even for all of us. I'm sure we're all looking at any ways that we can for our students to perform, whether it's marching band, concert band, chamber ensembles, jazz bands, you name it, whatever those things. We're looking at ways to do that. So I don't think that's I would imagine that's pretty commonly held in our state. Is no matter what happens, regardless of state championships, restrictions, guidelines, everything, we're going to do everything we can to give our kids a safe chance to perform. Any other discussion? Okay, so we, of course, we have the item, and just to help me, either John or Tim, whoever, then can we read the exact motion from the Marching Band Committee before we go by district vote?
You got it, Tim? Hearing nothing. I have it here. The motion was to take a vote as to whether the KMEA Marching Band Committee shall proceed with planning a championship for 2020. So yes meant they would proceed, and no meant they would not proceed. Okay, so again, I'm going to go by district here. When I call your district, if you could respond, I guess for this one, we would have to respond yes to the motion, right? Because the motion is to cancel, well, right? No, not. You could couch it either way you wanted to. I think maybe, Joe, you might want to leave it the same way so that yes means yes, because otherwise, you know, it just gets confusing. In other words, understood. What if this band council were to say 10 to 2 yes, they would be directing the marching band committee to continue to pursue. I think that's what it turns in. It's a little awkward and a little funny wording, but we want to get the point across. And since no meant no yesterday, maybe today would be the same. Okay, that makes sense to me. So just to keep the wording consistent. So when we call your district, of course, a no vote would mean to not continue to planning for state marching band championships in 2020. And a yes vote would mean to continue to plan. So District 1.
District 1 votes no, do not continue.
District 2.
No. District 2 is no.
Thank you, Alan. District 3.
No.
Thank you, Joel. District 4.
No.
Thank you, Nathan. District 5.
No.
Thank you, Brad. District 6.
No.
District 7.
No.
District 8.
No.
District 9.
No.
District 10.
District 10 is yes.
District 10 is yes. Thank you, Scott. District 11.
No.
Thank you, David. And District 12.
No.
Okay.
11 to 1, the noes have it.
Okay, so thank you all very much for that. Of course, we will pass this motion on to the KMEA Executive Committee for discussion. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but the committee's meeting tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes.
So they will meet to discuss the action from the KMEA Executive Board. So that is our only action item for the agenda. So of course, like as I mentioned, I want to make sure you're all aware that we are certainly working within the band council and the division chairs to try to stay on up to speed on guidance from KMEA regarding music classrooms during the school day. So obviously, if you have any suggestions or any considerations for that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can most definitely add that into our subcommittee, or if you want to be involved in that planning of any type, just again, reach out to me. I'd be happy to add you onto that. We're going to need lots of folks smarter than me to figure out how to do this in the best way possible. Real quickly here, if there are any additional discussion items, I want to open the floor briefly for that. So any discussion items?
Mark Monroe? Is that right?
Yes.
Right. I think Mark Monroe has something.
No, I don't.
Oh, beg your pardon.
Going once, going twice. Okay, well, I want to thank you all so much for your work. We do need to have a motion and a second to adjourn, and then we can do that. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Beth Stribling, and second by Nathan Willoughby. Anyone opposed to that motion? All right, so we don't have another meeting date set at this point. We're hoping that we'll get some information on the back to schools plans for the majority of the states in the district, and then from there, once our guidance things are ready to go, we will send out hopefully a little bit more notice than this last one to schedule our next meeting for discussion items in that regard. So everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you all very much.